Welcome, finally, to the Monday, November 11th meeting of the Granby Plan Commission. First item on the agenda is roll call. Kim Gilbert, Chair, is present. Sydney Bremer, Vice Chair.
Present.
Alder Veronica Corpus Dax.
Present.
Commissioner Lisa Hanson.
Present.
Commissioner Jacob Miller.
Present.
Commissioner Randall Petrowski.
Present.
And Commissioner Jerry Wisbiski.
Present.
Thank you. Next item, approval of the agenda for the November 11th, 2019 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Move to approve.
Do we need to edit it for room?
Oh.
Lisa's meeting saying that we need to have it edited as far as which room we are meeting in, 310 rather than 6:20,
6:25 start time.
Okay.
So with that edit, I move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bremer, a second by Commissioner Hanson to approve the recommendation, or approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next item, approval of the minutes from the October 21st, 2019 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wisbiski, a second by Alder Veronica Corpus Dax to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item, regular business, item 1. Consideration with possible action on a request to authorize a conditional use permit for vehicle sales and repairs located at 314 North Monroe Street, submitted by Justin Winnick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request. It's kind of a two-part conditional use permit request. Located at 314 North Monroe. That's the property highlighted in red, kind of a flag-shaped lot or L-shaped piece. Monroe between Bodart and Pine Street across from Brown County Library. The request is, one is for vehicle sales, which will actually be motorcycle sales. The other one will be for vehicle repair, which will include motorcycle repairs. The property, the comp plan shows the area as a downtown. It's kind of this large purple color. The actual zoning is downtown 1 or D1. And in that district, you need a conditional use permit for those particular uses. So with the building, kind of looking east, this is Monroe, this is the Brown County Library. Here again, it's kind of that L-shaped piece of property. The building occupies about 6,600 square feet of the site. The site's only about 8,000 square feet in size, so there's really not an opportunity for any sort of outdoor display here or repairs, so everything will be pretty much contained within the building. We did ask the applicant to get a pre-assessment from an architect to make sure the use lined up with the building itself, and that is attached within your agenda. There's not a great detail there, but they did consult with an architect about the ability to meet current code for that particular use. So, we did notify affected property owners. I don't think we got any calls or questions on this one. We're recommending approval of the request. There are 2 conditions, basically meeting all municipal code requirements, including site plan review. And item B is the necessary approvals and licenses for state agencies. Mainly that's a dealership license to be obtained to run that sales business. The applicant is here tonight if you have questions of him.
Thank you.
I do have questions of you, Paul.
Sure.
Did the staff talk about whether this was highest and best use? We're kind of crossing over Monroe Street here as far as extending the downtown.
Yeah.
And it seems somehow, to my way of thinking, motorcycle sales across from the library seems incongruent.
Right.
I don't have any official reason to object, but it just seems odd.
Well, we don't discriminate against uses in this case. I think it does fit within this area. I mean, the use is pretty much self-contained. There is a major development proposed at what we call the associated lot with the grocery store and multifamily there. Another development potentially in the area. I think the market will probably dictate maybe the reuse of those buildings in the future. I think this use is perfectly fine in the short term, maybe even the long term.
I guess part of my surprise was that I was thinking that things that had to do with automobiles went under the highway commercial, but I'm wrong.
Well, they do. They're permitted in that district, and that's really where they're intended. The downtown really is kind of a catch-all district, and that's why it's a conditional use permit, so it comes before this body and the council for a little more oversight on that.
So it's up to us to decide whether or not it's appropriate then?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
More by adding conditions to make it fit within the neighborhood, so to speak.
Thank you.
So do you know, is there any intended
usage of that lot that's, I believe, north of the property for outdoor display of sales, or are all the sales displays intended to be indoor?
I don't know the ownership relationship, but as far as the conditional use permit, it's limited to the boundary of this property here, that's in red, so we weren't permitting sort of outdoor sales or repair in that parking lot.
And the building basically covers that entire alley, right?
Yeah, about 90% of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion? Yes, Jerry?
It seemed to me that this kind of falls in line with, we have a lot of bicycle shops and sales, and except for the noise, of course, maybe that's people might be concerned about, but I can see where this probably would be a blend of what we do downtown anyways.
Right, it's kind of a catch-all in some ways,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions for the applicant?
Move to open the floor. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Henson, a second by Alder Corpus Dax to open the floor for the public. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on this item?
Do we have the applicant here?
Is the applicant here?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, if you would step up to the podium and give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Justin Winnick, and the address of the building is 314 North Monroe.
Okay, thank you.
My concern, I guess, is with noise. Now, this may have something to do with the fact that my own home is just off of East Shore Drive.
Okay.
A lot of motorcycles really like that right of way. So, when somebody buys a motorcycle from you, what are they going to do with it?
When somebody buys a motorcycle from me, it's not really going to be causing noise in that area. It's just going to be like buying a motorcycle from a dealership, Craigslist, Facebook, wherever you'd buy a motorcycle. So once they've purchased a motorcycle, wherever they take it, that's up to them. So
But
it's
they
not
would be
really-
riding it out of there, right?
Yeah, in some cases, yeah, most of the cases, they'd probably be driving it out of there unless they have it arranged to be taken home with a trailer or what have you. But for the most part, yeah, they'll probably be driving it out once they purchase it.
Is there any way to encourage, is there any way to prevent people from not revving down the street right across from the library?
Yes, I think that would be reasonable to address to the people, the customers that are buying it. I would let them know that this is kind of an area we'd like to keep it down, keep it quiet. So that would be easy to do.
I appreciate your willingness to take that on, thank you.
No problem.
How many motorcycle sales do you anticipate in any given day?
I just kind of started out small, so I've just been selling like on, like I said, Craigslist and Facebook, and I've had some success at it. I've been probably buying and selling for the last 3 or 4 years, and I started out maybe selling like 1 or 2 a year, and then as I went on, it probably got up to one summer with, I think the most was like 10, maybe 11 or 12 motorcycles last year. So I'm not sure what the success rate will be yet. This is my first time actually getting my dealer's license and going through with making it an actual business. So I'm hoping, obviously the more the better, but I'm guessing to start out with, probably somewhere between 15 to 20, just starting like around the summertime. I don't want to shoot for much higher, but I mean, hopefully I get more, but I'm still, this is all new to me, so. But not every single day. I'm probably not going to sell one. Maybe once a week, hopefully, in the summertime. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Jerry.
I know what they're alluding to down there. I live on Nicolay Drive.
Okay.
And Nicolay Drive, if you sell or drive motorcycles or anything, is actually the #1 speedway for motorcycles and crazy people on motorcycles. Probably, and it brushes off on her area also, on East Shore Drive.
Okay.
And to the point where these guys that run these motorcycles, they do really cute things like standing on the handlebars, sitting up on the seat, and sometimes going so fast you can't even tell what color they are. And I think that's a police issue. I'm not going to blame that on you, not going to blame it on your business. I'm going to blame it on the riders, probably not even them, but I think it's a police issue that should be actually policed. And if that would happen down there, I would think that hopefully the police would get an action there to kind of police that, to keep the sound down. How do you get in and out of that building would be a question I have with the motorcycles.
Well, the front of the part of the building, it's my dad's building, and he bought it. It used to be WGNR Fitness or some sort of fitness. They used to sell fitness equipment out of there, and so I'm primarily doing like the sales out of the back of it. So the front part of it, there's not going to be like motorcycles and stuff on display really. It's mainly the back alleyway that we're going to be going in, and that's where they'll come. There's.
Would you point at the back and the front? And all that
So
good stuff?
this is the front of the building here.
Yes.
This is the main entrance when it was like the fitness store.
Uh-huh.
And so my dad's renovating this. He's not totally sure what he's going to do with it right now, but he's just fixing it up. So the area where they'll be entering the motorcycle shop is they'll probably either drive over here or over here, and they'll drive back, and it's just in this back area where I'm going to be working. And there's an overhead door back there, and off to the left over here there's a mechanics repair shop here, and then I think on the right side of here there's like a builder. He like build houses and stuff, so it kind of fits. Like I figured it was kind of in the area of it fits in kind of back here, and it's plus two, it's a little bit hidden, so it's not really. When she was saying about the library, it's not really going to be.
They're not coming and going by
it's
the
not
library.
really,
they're in an alley there, basically.
It's not super like tacky with it being like motorcycles and like the two different kind of themes. So it's so yeah, it's going to be back in this area, and people coming to it will just come back here, and I'll probably have a sign posted in the back too. So there's like there's a little bit of parking back here. Like I said, there's probably not going to be too many people coming in all at once, but so there's enough area for them to park back there, and there will be probably a few. I have my motorcycles in storage right now, but I'll have a few motorcycles there on display, and most of my where they'll see the motorcycles is basically how they see them now. I'll have them posted on like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, and I may even set up a website. So usually they contact me and they'll tell me what they're looking at, what motorcycle, and if I don't have it here, this is where I'll go to conduct the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, and I'll probably have a few there and like tools and stuff to do minor repairs.
And not necessarily a congregation spot where they all congregate and.
Yeah, no, it'll just.
That's where they want to get together, especially down by Bay Beach and down that area. And once they all get together, there's no stopping them.
Yeah.
It's,
yeah, I know.
I'm sure you know who the crowd is, but.
Yeah, some of them. But.
Sad to say, but I've been told already by the police department that the only way that they could probably control the speed, because are these all crotch rockets? Those fast ones?
I have some Harley Sportsters, and like
Okay.
I do deal with crotch sport bikes because they're a little lower cost, and since I'm still somewhat young, I have to. I'm limited to my budget, and so I can't really afford expensive Harleys. But I've sold like Victory Cruisers and like different types that are more like sport tour bikes, where they're not like full-on crotch rocket. They're kind of like a crossover. And I do have some Harley Sportsters, which are like smaller Harleys.
Okay, well, it's not up to this body to control my problems or her problems really with bad exit or really do it that way. We're going to vote on whether this is going to pass the law, the ordinances and everything in that area. So I was just kind of curious, because, boy, sure, I feel sorry for them. We lose at least one or two a year.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty bad.
they wrap themselves around telephone poles, and
Yeah.
it's very, very unfortunate.
That's sad.
All right, thank you very much, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
While Mr. Winnick is there, Paul, could you put the map back up on the wall? Now, I'm finding myself confused. Can you show us again where the areas that you would be, as you said, conducting your business?
Yeah, so this is the front of the building, and then
Mhm.
this is I think the libraries
Yeah.
over somewhere over
Mhm.
here.
Okay,
So then you take go in the back area, the back alleyway you can enter from either side.
thank you,
And
yes.
it'll be back in this small area, so it's kind
Okay.
of tucked away in there.
Perfectly clear, thank you very
Yep.
much.
Not much of an area congregation.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just gonna be kind of peaceful back there, you know.
You could be a better policeman than the policeman, so
Thank you.
just police the noise and their activities.
Thanks.
Are there any further questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak on this? Okay, thank you.
Motion to close the floor and return to regular
Second.
business.
We have a motion by Commissioner Brimmer, a second by Commissioner Wojcicki to close the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're back.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wojcicki and a second by Commissioner Miller to approve the recommendation. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the chair would ask that you cast your vote.
Unanimously approved.
Thank you. The city council will meet, what, next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, yeah.
So it'll be the 19th.
19th, correct.
Thank you.
I can follow up with you
Okay.
next steps.
Okay.
Next item, item 2. Consideration with possible action on the request to rezone a portion of the parcel in the 1820/1830 block of South Norwood Avenue from low-density residential to highway commercial, submitted by Tony Weed. In addition, the Department of Community and Economic Development is recommending that the rear yard of the following tax parcels be rezoned from low-density residential to general commercial: 1800 South Ashland Avenue, 1804 South Ashland Avenue, and 1812 South Ashland Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know it's a mouthful. There's two separate requests kind of going on. The initial request was for Mr. Weed to consider rezoning a strip of property adjacent to his commercial building, the Dino Stop, along South Norwood Avenue. And we included, the staff did, 3 parcels to the north that also have that same zoning district. It's a strip of R1 zoning property that Mr. Weed needs to encroach into for a pickup window. This is the northwest corner of Lombardi and Ashland. Again, the Dino Stop's on the corner. 3 commercial buildings or lots up to the north by Victory. Single-family homes across the street of South Norwood Avenue. The comp plan shows high-intensity retail, office, and housing on the corner. It shows some R1, probably because of a single-family home that was there back in the day, and then commercial uses to the north, just south of Victory. I believe this is part of the Legends District. It does pick up the Dino Stop, but I don't think there's any particular recommendation from the zoning perspective. So this is what we have to go off of from future land use recommendation. The zoning of the area, there's some industrial across Ashland Avenue at the Legends District to the south, which is part of the PUD for the Tundra and so forth. The Dino Stop itself has a C2 or highway commercial zoning. The properties to the north have general commercial or C1 zoning district. And of course, there's this band of R1 zoning. So this is kind of a close-up of that area. Victory to the north here, South Norwood, Lombardi, and Ashland. This is the Dino Stop here in the corner, C2 zoning, C1 zoning, and there's a strip of R1 zoning. That's kind of the reason for the request, is to allow for encroachment into that area. So this is a residential strip that was intended years ago as kind of a buffer or transition to the residential properties across the street. We do have a handful of these in town. We don't do this practice any longer. because we have setback requirements and other transitional yard requirements that we can implement. So the request is to take this stretch here to C2 to match the adjoining zoning, and take this from R1 to C1 to match the adjoining zoning. The strip, again, was intended as a transitional yard to the residents. It also prevents any sort of access to South Norwood Avenue. So this is kind of an oblique picture of the area, or kind of looking northeast. Norwood, Lombardi, Ashland, this is the dyno stop here. The pumps, and then the 3 commercial lots to the north. So the area in question is here. I think there's a desire by the owner to add a drive-through window or a pickup window here. There's a roughly 25 feet from the sidewalk to that building front, so that strip of R1 basically precludes him from expanding anywhere in that area. There was some past expansions on the dyno stop site back in '95. There was a car wash that was added. At that time, they also tried to remove this strip of R1 property, and that was denied. So, again, the request is coming back forward to be considered again tonight. Staff is recommending denial of the request. We feel it's important to keep that transitional area, or that buffer, even though that technique is still outdated, so to speak, or we don't use it any longer. We feel it's important to eliminate any sort of commercial access to South Norwood, and to prevent any encroachment into what we call, or consider the neighborhood, so to speak. So we're recommending denial of the initial request. Our request for studying the other 3 parcels, we'd like to withdraw that from consideration at this point.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I have a question. What was the rationale for the policy change to eliminate these type of strips as a buffer?
I don't think we've eliminated too many of them. There's a handful of them around, trying to separate commercial and residential uses. I think most of them are still in place, as far as I recall.
I mean, like you said, it's no longer a policy that these are created.
Yeah.
Why was that policy changed, or what was the rationale behind changing the policy going forward?
Yeah, I think a stronger zoning code, stronger setback requirements and transitional requirements. Above and beyond that, I think that strip prevents commercial access from that commercial use to basically a residential street. So the idea here is that that traffic is supposed to go to the frontage road or to Ashland Avenue to exit.
So if in this case, if that R1 strip were removed, would the existing property conform to our current setback requirements?
It depends on the width. So there's a 15-foot setback that would be required for that commercial district. Typically, you might find an aisle space of 10 or 12 feet wide for a drive-through or a pickup window. That might leave you within about 13 feet, so it would be right on the edge, possibly, of being compliant or not. We wouldn't know until we saw a site plan layout.
But then you're saying, too, that if we change all of that to commercial, that then they would have access to have exits onto Norwood?
They potentially would, right. Each parcel would be entitled to 1 driveway cut. There are spacing requirements for existing drives that might be there, but they would be entitled to 1 driveway cut.
Would you show me where the drive-up window is on that particular shop?
On this one?
Yeah.
Sure. These are some building footprints here. This is the dyno stop and the canopy, so it'll be right about in the middle.
Oh, okay.
And is the yellow strip now covered by terrace, or it goes up to the terrace?
Right, so there is some grass, there's some landscaping, there is some transition already that was required as probably part of the previous site plan. It's basically landscaping.
The window going right there where the trash can is or something?
I think approximately, yeah, I can't
Yeah.
speak for the petitioner, but I imagine it's somewhere in the middle, possibly, in that area.
And you stated that the reason for the denial is to prohibit commercial traffic onto Norwood.
I think that's one component. The other component is maintaining the transition that was set up years ago. The zoning goes back to '73. I think it's been effective. It's not, again, preferred, but it's effective in what it does in creating that transition and not allowing access.
Although there's already exits onto Norwood by the service pumps.
That's a topic maybe for another day. We believe as staff that this is an illegal driveway. So there was a home here in 2005. Between 2005 and 2010, the home was removed. The driveway apron itself was left, and then there was some access. We don't have any record of a permit for that. That's not part of this discussion necessarily, but we don't believe that that's a legal driveway.
So if the commercial buildings were residences, then they could have driveways onto Norwood.
Correct. Right. It was a non-conforming structure at that time, potentially.
Thank you.
Move to open the floor.
Is there anybody here wishing to speak on this?
I would be, as the owner, willing to, for
Okay.
questions.
Move to open the floor.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Henson, a second by Alderperson Stacks to open the floor for discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. If you'd like to come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Tony Weed, the address is 1828 South Ashland Avenue, Green Bay.
And you would like to put in a window, a drive-up window on that side?
Correct. So on this side of the building, what we were looking to do is remodel the exterior and place a different restaurant in which we would operate. And we would have a proposed to put a pickup window along the side of the building, as it speaks. So
Could you go up to the screen and show us where
Oh,
that
sure.
would go? So you're not talking about extending the building.
correct. Yeah, so the building would stay the same. We would certainly remodel the building. It's in need of some repair. The driveway for the pickup window would go from here to about here. So basically, folks would drive on this side of those trees, and maybe it's right along the trees, so we would have to replant them or put in different landscaping. But customers would drive right along the building here. They would pick it up, their products, and then they would simply just drive out and exit out the driveway, which is right here. It's just a thing now becoming more and more requested by customers that, from a convenience standpoint, that they like to order on an app on their phone and be able to drive up and pick up their products and then drive away. So it's really a convenience factor. So we certainly wouldn't be moving the building at all. Maybe bumping it out a foot architecturally. We'd have to, just so that there'd be a little bit of a cutout for the person to be inside to hand out the food, but it wouldn't encroach. So that's what we were requesting, and then in speaking with Mr. Newmeyer, he had explained that we would need to take away that old zoning, which is the yellow strip, and then just basically make the zoning, our entire piece, the same as what it is over here. So that's our request.
Paul, could
And
you
I have
put
some
up-
pictures of what it would look like too,
Right.
that I could show you as well.
You had another one, Paul, that kind of showed where, I was wondering if there was one that showed where the other driveway was that Mr. Weed was mentioning, where people would exit. Ah, yes, that will help.
Yeah, so there's a driveway here, here, and then we've had a driveway there.
The driveway there then is the one that was to the residential property, right?
The house was just in such bad repair that we ended up having to take it down.
Mhm.
And if this is not approved, what would your alternative be? Just to have the customers actually enter the premises to pick up their merchandise?
Yeah, yes, that would be an alternative. This would just allow for, more convenience. And, it's a competitive marketplace, especially in the convenience store business. So looking for additional ways of being a sustainable business, and especially a small business. So
have a couple of follow-up questions. How long have you owned this property?
It's been in our family since 1992.
And do you have a site plan developed yet?
I have an initial site plan that I could hand out. I haven't gone through with the full. I wanted to meet tonight and see which direction, but I do have some, a surveyor that's put together a plan that I could certainly hand out if you would like. Along with an exterior of what it would look like, and then an exterior of what it currently looks like for you to see. Good.
I'd like to see those.
Thank you.
So it's in that order. The survey is kind of small, so I apologize for that, but on the east side, you'll see some markings of where the pickup window would be.
I do have a question about how customers are going to access that drive-through area. Is it through that questionable north driveway?
Yeah, see, the driveway was, you know, we hired a contractor and we did get a permit for demolition, so in speaking with Mr. Newmeyer, that was the first I've heard that was some sort of a question at this point. So that is typically used, but yep, so that would be an option, but then there's also the street here, which is the frontage road, that you would also be able to access as well.
So there's no way if someone pulls into in the main parking lot by the gas station area, that they would be able to get around. They would have to leave your property to get to the
Right.
driveway.
Exactly. So that'd be the turn in, correct. To access it would be to turn in here, or to come down the front of the road there.
It looks like based on the site plan and the pictures that you don't intend to add any other entrances or exits, is that correct?
That's correct.
And it also looks like you wouldn't be removing the sidewalk. You would be able to create clearance without going into the sidewalk area.
That's correct. The driveway would be approximately about 13 feet from the sidewalk, would be the start of the driveway, and then it would go into the building. So a typical zone property would be a 15-foot setback, but the way we have it right now, we would need the driveway to be about 11 or 12 feet, so it's right around, like Mr. Newmeyer said, like 13, 14, 15 feet, somewhere in there. But correct, we would, certainly it wouldn't affect anything near the sidewalk. And I've walked it with neighbors and so forth, and talked to folks that live along there. Many favorable reviews. I haven't had any negative. And walked it and showed them the exteriors and what we were looking to do.
How do people currently drive into your property?
Well, currently they come in either through this driveway, this driveway, this driveway, or this driveway.
So some of them come directly off Ashland, others take that corner around there onto Lombardi and then Newey around.
Yep. Or they come from the neighborhood and turn into this driveway.
Because I share the staff's concern with the commercial traffic along the Norwood Street, thank you. But this alternative route, is that feasible? And I guess I'm wanting your thoughts about that. How would you get people to come through the top there along Victory Boulevard and then down that cul-de-sac to access your property?
Well, we would certainly do it through education and explaining to our current customers, you know, what the easiest way to come through. So my guess is folks that are regular customers would probably use this road because it seemed to me that it would be pretty convenient just to do that.
Yeah.
So whether they're coming from downtown or whatever, that seems to be a nice way to go. But yeah, if they're coming around, certainly they could just take Norwood too and come this way. So it would just be through education and
most of them would be used to taking Lombardi and go at it that way, I would assume.
Yeah, I think Ashland seems to be pretty, you know, obviously it's busier, so I think.
Well, for this purpose, they wouldn't enter, they could enter, that's right, through Ashland and again go out Norwood and loop around that way.
Through that frontage road.
I'm just wondering if there's some way signage to get people to make the turn if they want to use the drive-through?
Oh, I see,
You
up
see
on
what I'm
Ashland
getting
up there,
at? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a
Sure.
way to keep them off Norwood
off of Norwood.
if they're going to use the drive-through. And I guess, Paul, do you have any thoughts about that?
I think that'd be considered off-premise advertising.
Okay, so limited possibilities for that.
But it'd be to our, to educate and explain the easiest way to get in. I'm thinking we'll have, the repeat customers, hopefully, that we can explain.
Jerry?
Couple things. You already have cars going down Norwood that could be commercial or they could be just regular customers. This is just a step away from turning into commercial. Question I have for Paul is if there's any quandary or any issues about that driveway, should that be resolved first before we even come here with this? Or is that always going to be an issue and it's going to go away?
Well, I think the request came first for the zoning change, potentially. If it's approved, it's a moot point, then that drive would be permitted by right.
Okay.
If it's denied, then there's an enforcement issue potentially about what we do with the drive.
So if it's denied, then you would have to address it, otherwise you wouldn't have to even address it.
We may have to address it. We'd have to talk as staff about how that would be enforced, if it would be enforced.
And the other thing that kind of disturbs me a little bit, and I think this gentleman has probably pretty well answered it, appears to me like you talk to the neighbors and they don't really care, do they?
I've talked to many of them.
Yeah.
Especially the ones right in front, so I haven't had any negative feedback. They got a letter, and so they were worried because their house was circled.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so just
okay,
in
sure.
educational
Sure.
and explaining, look, it's not anything to do with that side of the street. This store's been here since forever. Probably 40s, I would think,
Yeah,
maybe
where's
30s.
the dinosaur? That was another question. Is he still there?
The dinosaur's still there, yeah.
Yeah?
And
Oh.
that's been there since the 50s.
Oh, there he is, yeah. Okay.
He's still hanging there. Just had a makeover this summer.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it's been there quite a long time. So, they're used to it, and that's our job to be a good neighbor, and obviously to get along and make sure that we're doing our part.
Okay, and then you mentioned those trees there would have to be probably removed because it's a kind of a short turn to get lined up at the driveway coming in that entrance. And then I would imagine you also mentioned that probably easier to show it on this slide here about, looks like you're gonna have a green space on the other side of that sidewalk between the driveway and the sidewalk. So you're gonna have to do some shrubbery or something along there.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's gonna be all cleaned up too, so it's gonna be an ugly driveway and lights shining all on people's houses and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, the driveway?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the good thing is the lights are facing up,
yeah.
which is parallel with houses, so there wouldn't be any headlights. So we want to go through that with the neighbors, of course. But yeah, we could certainly, with the site plan, talk about, there's 13 to 15 feet that would be from the sidewalk to the driveway, where we could replant. These trees are mature, some have died. So
I think it makes it more appealing too. It makes it more appealing for
It would
that
look
facade
nicer.
on that elevation of the building.
it would look much nicer.
Gotta clean it up.
Yeah, with a nice landscape.
Did you
If it's a
purchase-
berm or whatever we decide.
Did you purchase that land that we're talking about in question where used to be a house? Do you own that?
That's been, the house has been down for, I don't know how long. It's been 15 plus years.
Do you know who owns it?
We owned it. Probably, we've owned it since the mid-90s,
Yeah.
1993.
And still do?
Oh, yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, the land, for sure.
Well, then the
So we got a
driveway,
permit to demolish it, and then we left it with that was.
the
'cause it was-
driveway is yours then?
Well, that's certainly my position. I'd hate to lose it. That would be a negative effect on our.
So it kind of goes away right away. You bought it and it's there and I don't
We would still have the house if it was, if it was just in such rough shape, that's why we took it down.
Is that still buildable for a house?
boy, with the setbacks now, I don't,
Probably not.
it
Okay.
wouldn't
Yeah,
it'd be a
the
small
commercial
house, yeah.
Oh,
'cause there's-
commercial, oh, okay. Interesting.
it would- Yeah, to build anything on it, the current would be about this big.
Yes, tiny house.
Yeah, it would be, I mean, we're kind of, it's green space at this point. We just cut it and maintain it.
Well, thank you, and
Thank
as
you.
I recall, too, every time I go by there, you run a pretty clean shop, nice
Thank
clean
you.
looking station.
That's our
Yeah.
job, you know, to be a good neighbor and run a clean operation, so.
Always busy, that's nice. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this item?
Move to close the floor and return to regular order.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Petrowski, a second by Commissioner Wasbicki to close the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're back.
I have some follow-up questions for staff. So, in a vacuum, assuming that this yellow strip didn't exist, and we were only dealing with the setback question, the 15-foot setback question, is it a regular practice or a feasible practice to grant that 2-foot exception for businesses?
That's a matter for the Board of Appeals to consider. So the 15-foot setback is a building and parking setback measured from the right-of-way line, so you can't encroach in that. Administratively, we can't do anything, so it'd be shipped off to the Board of Appeals for their consideration.
So even if, in a theoretical world where we agree to strip out this buffer zone, under their proposal, they would have to go to Board of Appeals to determine whether they would get approval for the setback variance.
Potentially, and inform the applicant of that process.
And those, in this visual here, those 3 properties north of the Dino Shop, below the cross street, which is that Victory,
Yes.
are those all currently with commercial use?
I believe so. The Booyah Shed is up on top.
Right.
There's a chiropractic office. I'm not sure if the house, maybe the house is still residential use. I'm not quite sure. Still may be rented.
It is residential,
It is residential.
yeah.
Thank
It still has the zoning for business, but it's residential.
So that's a remnant property from years ago.
But it was a framing shop for many years.
I'm inclined to approve the applicant's request to remove this zoning, and I'll tell you why. This area has clearly become commercial already. If this buffer strip is something that's sort of a relic of the past and inconsistent with this strip of properties, combining that with a business owner who's been operating this property successfully for nearly 30 years, or 20-something years, and a property that's been in existence since the 40s, I think is probably the right approach. I don't think that guarantees approval. Obviously, he'd have to go through the Board of Appeals, but I think a relic that we don't use anymore shouldn't be the impediment to that. That's why I'm inclined to approve the request of the business owner.
I second that motion, I approve it too. Much not in my normal way of voting, but I think it's a relic. I think he's doing a good job with his business and everything there, and I don't think it's detrimental to the neighborhood.
I guess it wasn't a formal motion yet, but I just wanted to kind of broach the topic and see what others thought.
I think I'm a little, if it went for approval, I think I'd be a little bit more comforted by the fact that it would have to go through the Board of Appeals for setbacks. My thoughts on it, I certainly appreciate what their plans look like and how the building, the renovations that they would do and how much nicer it would look. I'm concerned about the weird traffic pattern, and I'm concerned that if we take the zoning, if we, take that zoning away from the Dino Stop property, and then we also remove it from those 3 others, it is, it's hard to see in that picture right there, but it is really transitional. There's a lot, basically, it's all houses all over there. So, I guess I'm leaning toward following staff's recommendation at this point.
Point of clarification, whether we approve or deny this request on the strip for the dino stop. Am I correct that the staff is gonna withdraw the other 3?
That is our recommendation, yes. So we actually initiated that request because we felt if we were going to support the request, to remove it when we do it for all the properties. So it was more or less an exercise in studying the situation, but we've decided to remove that request.
Okay, so we could approve the request for the dino stop or deny it?
You can.
And in either case, the other part would be withdrawn?
Well, you can take them as a whole or take them individually. It's up to you, I guess, as a body. We're just simply saying our recommendation to the Plan Commission.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Jerry?
Correct me if I'm wrong, if we do approve it, there's no reason for it to go to the Board of Appeals.
There may be a need to go.
What do you mean, may?
Well, we haven't received an official submittal yet, but we suspect, based on the dimensions, that they'll need a variance for the setback off of South Norwood Avenue.
When is that determined? Why wasn't it determined before it came here?
Well, we're talking about the zoning first, and then,
Oh, okay. Oh, I see.
so the site plan is not necessarily part of the discussion. I mean, it kind of is, but that's a separate process that we look at. If it's not compliant, then they have a recourse to go to the Board of Appeals. So again, there's a 15-foot setback if they obtain the zoning. They're talking about maybe 13 feet of green space and a 12-foot aisle space, something like that. So they're encroaching about 2 or 3 feet into that setback area, potentially.
Okay, thank you.
This one's really tough. I am appreciative of the staff's concern to protect the residential properties across the street. Persuaded by Randy's point about an old way of doing something. It makes sense to have this brought into conformity with what is the current practice in the city at this point. And I'm also inclined not to want to continue that old way that then becomes a hindrance for an expansion of the convenience of this particular commercial operation. But I'm just stuck on the commercial traffic. Clearly, Victor, that's the name of it again. Victory. Oh no, the cul-de-sac is not an alternative. Although indeed, by word of mouth, people who come there often might do that, but other folks are going to come in the way they've always come in, because that's where Dino is. And so I think that's not likely to solve the traffic problem. We've still got the issue of the traffic, commercial traffic along that, what is a residential street on the west side. I'm caught between those two. And I'd be happy to hear what other people say. Yes.
I'm stuck less on the site plan and what's all going on with that, and more on the intent. The original purpose was to provide a buffer, and do we feel that a buffer is still needed there, or is the setback take care of what our concerns are there? And then the second part of it too is these other properties to the north. And obviously, Dino Shop is invested in what they're doing there. It seems like they have a plan for what they want to do there, but opening this up to these properties in the north, I think, could be a bigger thing to worry about down the road. I mean, this is a hot area for development. There's probably going to be something that's going to come up here in the next 5-10 years. We're going to have to deal with this thing probably again. I'd like to not have to deal with it for that. So I think we kind of need to figure out what we want to do with this strip and not worry so much about the site plan, what's going on there, because there's other processes for that. Do we want to keep the buffer there? Is there a purpose to keep the buffer there? Is there any downside to getting rid of it? Is where I'm at, and I'm still in between. I don't know.
I don't know if this helps or hurts. Our current subdivision code does not allow for double fronting lots like this, because it creates this scenario here where there's access on all sides. Some of these lots have 3 frontages, and they have access on all 3 of those frontages. So this buffer area for the zoning also helps protect with that. It has less access points, or else you could have it on each one of your entry, like each one of your right-of-ways. So something else to keep in mind is those lots aren't going to change. They're always going to be double fronting, but the access doesn't have to be on all sides either.
As as long as the buffer zone remains where it is now.
It's really the only protection we have.
Yeah.
Although this particular site already does, I mean, both sides are already zoned and the entrances are already existing and in use. So that differentiates this particular parcel from the other parcels. It seems like the buffer zone only covers a very small portion of this particular property as opposed to the entirety of the other properties, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're pointing out there is access just below the yellow strip.
That's right.
The current driveways that go on to Norwood.
Could we show on this,
It's lined
on
up residential.
the prior one there, exactly or approximately where that yellow
Yep.
zone would?
It's right by the canopy.
It's right here. It's right at the beginning of the drive. It runs directly north to the.
This business is an old business. It's been here before my time, so it's obviously old. And it's a very well-established business. And I don't, whether we approve this or deny this, the business is gonna thrive as it has, and it will continue to. The owner has stated that if they don't receive this recommendation, that they'll just go old school, where the customer will go into the premises, pick up his merchandise and leave. So the success or failure of the business isn't contingent upon what we do here tonight at all. So it's my inclination in that regard to keep the buffer and maybe have to deal with it down the road sometime. That's my opinion.
I see already that the buffer zone for the greater majority of that property line has been disrupted. It no longer exists. Now, the additional thing that we're voting on is just a small little addition to the buffer zone that is already erupted.
Where's the buffer zone erupted? I mean, there is the residential driveway, but there's no longer a.
Right here.
Oh,
This-
yeah,
This is the end of the
that end.
buffer zone.
Right, where
This
the
is
houses are.
driveways, and this is all his property, basically going right in there. And
Right.
there's nothing over here either.
So what's
The
your
buffer
plan?
zone is not continued through there already.
Well,
Yeah.
right, but it's across from the houses. It's across from all the
I'll
residential.
go back to the house. Please.
There.
So the buffer zone,
Starts where the houses start.
yeah,
Yeah, the
It's in
buffer
line
starts
with
where
the
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 houses
house.
start.
buffer zone somewhat helps these people here a little bit, but look, this in fact is the end of the buffer zone for that property, and there's nothing for this property.
Or say it this way, Jerry, it's the beginning of the buffer zone, and across the street, it's the beginning of the housing that runs to
Well, from here to here,
Victor's.
that starts at the buffer zone.
Yeah.
And he's still gonna provide somewhat of a buffer zone. He talks about planting trees and bushes or shrubbery.
I kind of see Jake's point, so the question is really a fundamental one of, is the 15-foot setback
Yep.
sufficient going forward to provide a buffer on its own? Or do we need this sort of artificially constructed buffer that I assume predated the 15-foot setback requirements? So in other words, today, going forward, 15-foot setback replaces the buffer zone.
Correct. I think the zoning strip was an extraordinary step taken by the staff at that time, or the city, to create a line in the sand, so to speak. That's my, I mean, again, it's not used throughout the community, it's rarely used, so that's why we felt it was important to retain that.
So if just in a theoretical sense, if we strip this zone, this buffer zone out for this entire strip of properties, if any of the properties were going to encroach upon that 15 zone with some kind of 15-foot zone with some kind of change, they would have to go through the Board of Appeals to get that approved.
Correct.
Except for access.
Except for
That's
access.
the access.
That's the
that's
big
The
difference of that
traffic.
buffer is it's
Yeah.
stopping commercial access from entering Norwood.
Yeah, yeah.
So, imagine the top three properties redeveloped with a 6-story hotel with driveways all going onto Norwood, or all going onto the frontage. That's what that was used, sort of like in plats, they'll put in no access restrictions on plats. You can't do that with zoning. So that is the other point of that. I don't really think it was meant to be a big setback. It was meant to stop traffic, in my opinion.
And this goes back to a point that Paul, I believe, you made earlier, that it would be pretty hard to contend the use of the driveway to what used to be the old residential area, because that is owned by the Dino folks.
Right, I mean, we don't have, well,
And right now, there's no point in using that driveway because there's nothing there.
right, we
It
wouldn't have
goes to a
granted,
vacant
well,
lot.
we shouldn't have granted a permit if there was a permit to allow access, because we can't go through that yellow strip of property, so to speak. So that's an
Right.
indication to us why it's illegal.
Ah, okay.
Also based on aerial photography, so.
Do we have any idea of how long it's been in continuous use for the business?
I wouldn't dispute 1940 or 45, I'm sure it goes back quite a ways, but there's been modifications of the building over time as well. Expansions, the building itself, the car wash, the canopy and so forth.
No, I just mean the residential driveway. It's been that long since it's been used as a residential driveway?
Based on, I didn't check the raised permits, but between 2005 and 2010, the home was removed,
Okay.
and then the driveway was improved to some degree. Some paving was added to connect to the apron that was there.
So it was essentially converted from residential use to commercial use in about 2005, 2010?
Right, somewhere in between there.
And there's some parking at the back of the building, right? The back of the Dino building.
There is,
Yeah.
yes. That's perfectly fine.
That's the commercial use that
Yeah.
it now has. Okay, so there is use of that driveway currently, but minimal use that would become probably maximal use if you have the drive-through.
Right, I would think it'd be dedicated to those going through the drive-through or pickup
Mhm,
window. I think
exactly.
that's, it's not gonna be gas customers, it's probably just for that entity.
Drive-through, exactly.
So I think the way that I come down on this is because this is a way of doing things that is no longer deemed appropriate or useful by the city, it shouldn't stand in the way of progress here. And because there's the additional protection of having to go through, having the 15-foot setbacks and having to go through Board of Appeals to deviate from that, I'm still inclined to grant the request of the applicant. And I would move to grant the applicant's request and to circle in the initial request by the board to just strip the entire zone out from this area so we can just allow the existing standards to be in place.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Petrowski and a second by Commissioner Wesbiski to approve the recommendation and to allow the other three commercial properties, or is?
Right, to approve the not the recommendation, to approve the applicant's request
Right.
and to also re-include, I guess, the staff's initial recommendation to rezone the R1 strip
The whole strip.
to be conforming with the zoning around it.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any further discussion on that?
That leaves me still stuck with the traffic issue, because that driveway then is going to become an active commercial driveway.
That's where I'm at too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would really like if someone from the community had come and give some
Yeah.
thoughts, or who's the alder in that one?
Johnson.
Just their thoughts on it. I mean, I don't have personally have a problem with it, and I would love to clean up that zoning, but I do see your point, Sid.
I can give you one suggestion, I guess, if that would help. I don't know if you're gonna let
Please.
this motion go or not, but, so it's 25 feet in width, this band. You can adjust that width. You can do it for all or portion of it. So you can reduce the buffer, so to speak, from 25 to some other dimension that you feel comfortable with, but you can still leave it in place where it would not allow access. So you could shrink up that 25 feet to something more desirable potentially.
And then the setbacks would still be in place.
Well, the setbacks might become moot at that point. It's just, you probably could encroach right up to that yellow strip wherever it goes.
But they wouldn't have the access to Norwood.
Well, right, so it depends on how you want to balance the two. You can consider that.
How would that work then for the petitioner as far as
I don't know.
access to the drive-through?
I think that still would be an enforcement issue for the city,
Uh-huh.
potentially, so. It might solve one issue, but not both.
What,
If the driveway weren't allowed to be used, you'd have to use the frontage road then to access the drive-through. If the driveway were permitted, then you have either choice.
And the driveway is there, so for it not to be permitted would be for the city to do something to de-permit it,
Order it out.
order it out,
so,
because it is presumably in that case considered an illegal improvement.
Correct.
so if we were to shrink essentially this buffer zone down to say 15 feet to sync up with what a normal setback would be, that still leaves us with the problem that there would be a 2-foot encroachment.
Right.
Would the staff take a different analysis of this if we're dealing with a 2-foot encroachment on the buffer zone?
I think you'd want to consider a distance that would be accommodating to the applicant, to give them sufficient room to still operate. Because I think you're going to still allow them to expand their business, continue that business. You just maybe denying them access, but maybe the access is still a critical issue to them. It's just one way of looking, another way of looking at it, so to speak.
But if we kept the buffer, even if we went down to even 10 feet?
Sure. Or 5 feet, or, yeah,
That would still prohibit any access from Norwood.
in theory, yes.
So I'd be willing to withdraw my motion and bring a new motion if the chair will allow that.
The chair would allow that.
So I would.
Is Commissioner Wyspitsky okay with that? He seconded the motion, so.
I stand firm on my decision.
But there's no motion left for him to second.
Would someone have to
There's
second
no
it?
motion.
Pardon?
Well,
I just seconded the motion, there's no motion on the table, you're correct.
yeah, okay. So I would move to adjust the R1 buffer zone to 10 feet. Keep it in place, but amend it down to 10 feet. I think that would be an appropriate way to accommodate this petitioner while preserving other properties, but preventing other properties from creating access and driving up the traffic on too high a level. Provided that the petitioner can find a way to resolve the entrance issue. I guess that's up between them and staff and the city for the enforcement action, but I don't want to punish them by saying that their success is likely to continue in perpetuity and constrict their ability to evolve with the times. If they think this is a good way to run their business, I'm not inclined to stand in the way of it. So I think with that buffer in place, prevent a blow up of traffic on that strip, I'm comfortable that it would meet the petitioner's needs. So I will refile my motion or bring my motion to modify the 25-foot strip down to 10 feet.
The entire strip?
The entire strip.
I'm going to point on that, please, I don't follow these.
So what I'm proposing, Jerry, is to move that from 25 feet down to 10, which would create enough room for the applicant.
The full length of it, all the way down
Yes.
Norwood?
Which would create enough room for the applicant to,
Use that driveway.
yes.
And we don't know if you can really use that driveway, but I don't think anybody's going to bother.
That's true whether we approve
That's not in
this.
front of us right now.
That's right,
Yeah,
that's right.
okay.
And it preserves the rest of the strip as a buffer to prevent all of the businesses from creating an access onto Norwood.
I would second that motion because I'm not about to go back on old laws, rules, or whatever, and no threat of Board of Appeals and all that stuff to hurt somebody who's doing a hell of a job in running his business. So, okay, I'd second that.
Okay, we have a new motion, and by Commissioner Bukowski, and a second again by Commissioner Wyspitsky. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Commissioner Mills.
I have a question and potentially a different motion. I was going to try to pull it up, but I don't think my internet's going to allow me. This isn't a Legends District, and does the master plan address this area at all, at a detailed level, or is it
No, so it's really just covering the dino shell and some of the commercial ones that are along
It
Lombardi.
doesn't go all the way up north?
No, so it really just discusses what kind of commercial uses should be there, but nothing with access or circulation.
Okay.
Unfortunately, sorry.
Then my potential counter motion would be go back to the start of this by the petitioner and just worry about those, whatever, 2 parcels. Leave the buffer up north and then just worry about what we were started at besides trying to clean this
Right,
up.
you could just go, this is the original petition here, so you could just go to this point.
Just go to that point, do what was really petitioned, leave that buffer up on top. I know it's kicking the can down the road, but it keeps the buffer there, and I don't think any of us seem to have a problem with what they're trying to do as a business. It kind of gets the best of both worlds, kind of. So that would be my potential counter motion, would be just go back to the original at that line.
So allow staff to withdraw its extension.
If that's how we have to
Basically.
do it, yeah.
But we're still stuck then with the commercial traffic in and out. at
Well,
the
they're already
current
using that
license.
driveway as is, and
Yeah.
if it actually was an issue, I think it would have came up and been an enforcement issue, so they're already using it.
Mhm.
We're preventing it from being used on the northern 3 parcels for
Right.
now,
Right,
but we're basically just saying, hey, it's okay to use that driveway, it's already being used. Let site plan take care of the other little nitty-gritty details around, and then worry, I guess, about those when they come to us next time.
and we're basically accepting then the increase in the traffic through that driveway, which there would be, assuming that there's no other way to deal with the access to the drive-through window.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of concerns about the site plan personally, but I'm putting that away and just worrying about the zoning on it. I really don't like any of it. It all feels pretty just all over the place. And
Jerry-rigged.
yeah, I mean, if I had to vote right now, I would probably just vote to deny it at this point, based on what I've seen. It's not for lack of effort by anybody. I just don't. It doesn't feel good, and generally, when it doesn't feel good, that means there's something off about it.
Yes, sure.
Doesn't this proposal kind of spot zone the availability of having driveways for the 3 commercial properties involved up on the other end here? In other words, they already have a driveway going in the cul-de-sac area, but why couldn't they poke something in the back in the future? Or do the same thing?
Well, as of now, they can't with the.
Well,
Well, if you start chipping away at it,
yeah,
that'd be next, you might be raising up another,
that's something to
That's-
consider down the road. If
yeah, yeah. Because not only that, but you gotta remember that you're splitting up what if the 3 people across the street there have, they like that, and then all of a sudden the other ones say, wow, let's do the same thing with ours. Now you got a whole nother ball of wax coming through. We'll be going through this forever, basically.
Well, President, we have a motion on the floor. Motion has been made and seconded. So we need to do something with that. So is there any further discussion in that motion?
More comfortable with Randy's second motion.
That was the reducing it
The
to
10 feet.
Reducing the whole thing to 10 feet?
Still not great, but more comfortable,
Yeah.
more palatable.
That would leave us with that northern driveway problem though still, right? That'd be
Yes.
out of compliance?
Correct.
Right.
Could you go
But it
back
has
to
that
the
in that
drawing
case.
that shows those drives, that one? If Mr. Weed designed the drive-through to start from the large area in front, I can't remember now what you said, does it run to the northwest, the drive-through as you've been conceiving it? It
No,
was
the
coming
pickup
from
window would be on
top.
the east side, which
Okay.
is this side of the building.
So why would it have to come in from the top?
Because that's where the driver's side of the car is.
Driver's side of it.
I suspected there
We
was
were
a
talking
reason
about this
where
for
I
too
wasn't
long.
getting that. Okay, shoot.
And the other side has a car
I
wash.
had them going through and
Oh, that's all
then
right.
heading out on that nice little piece of cul-de-sac.
I thought of that too. He ordered
Yeah.
himself, he put the car wash in there.
Yeah,
Fine if we lived in England.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
I guess another thing I would say is that we're not, I don't think we're solving anything by
No.
reducing it to 10, because then we're gonna have an out of compliance driveway, and
yeah.
that's gonna have to be dealt
Yeah.
with,
Right.
and then that probably throws this whole plan off. So I don't think we're accomplishing anything by doing that. So I would, well, yeah.
What we're doing is providing a little bit more maneuvering room with the narrower buffer. But we don't know that anything else will follow from that.
Someday they could build that big hotel right there, that whole doggone plot.
There's something now, just we got access.
We have a motion and a second, so.
We have a motion, we
Yep,
need to.
yep.
This will
We
vote.
have to be,
Randy,
you have to
second.
second,
There's
are we
no
ready?
further discussion.
Okay.
Mr. Wood, after you cast your vote.
And a yes
Yes,
or
means
no
yes,
would
yes
be
is
on
for
what
it.
Andy, or Randy's,
Which is
Yes would be for
process.
Randy's.
10
If it's
foot
for
buffer,
motion.
the 10-foot buffer. Mhm.
Need to say it again. And then the blue.
I think it's my dry hands. You get to be 80, these things don't work too well because your fingers are so doggone dry.
Is that not what?
That won't work at all, yeah. That's the wrong point. It's drier than my fingers. I don't have a point. My vote is yes.
Okay, that
Yep.
passes 5-2.
So the motion passed 5-2. And again, it will go before City Council next Tuesday.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Sorry,
Thanks
you
for
can't
your time.
reverse those driver's sides there.
That's okay. Thank you for running a fine business in the city of Green Bay.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice of you.
Got a lot of gas stations.
Okay,
Thanks for your time.
next item, item 3. Consideration with possible action on a request to authorize a conditional use permit for limited production use at 340 North Broadway, submitted by Sandra McDonald, Cupid Arrow Escargot LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, this request is for conditional use permit, and it's kind of hard to see in this star, in the basement of the building where you see the star.
Yes.
So the whole site itself is downtown. You have Dousman, it's the main east-west. Broadway is the main north-south. This whole entire area is what's called, it's actually 22 plus acres, called the Rail Yard redevelopment area within the Broadway district. In 2008, that was established. In 2013, it had been amended to allow in the southern portion from Kellogg to the south, and primarily in that building, to allow limited production and processing uses. At that time, that was for brewing, so brewing and bottling and light industrial, basically. So let me kind of go through. So you can kind of see the zoning here shows that the comp plan shows that it's downtown. You see that heavy black line is the planned unit development outline. And then across the street is also downtown zoning. Future land use, this shows it as a gray, but that is really had been altered into a mixed use, future land use. But again, you kind of see the little star there a little bit better. And I don't have any pre-pictures or anything, so I'm just going to leave this one up. This area is also covered under our downtown plan, authenticity plan. It designates the site as part of the Larson Green Catalyst site. So the conditional use permit for limited production and processing is not out of place with any of our long-term plans. Again, this was changed just in 2013 to allow a limited production use. At this time, we have a petitioner coming in with a very interesting conditional use permit request. It's to establish another limited production and processing use called heliculture or heliculture.
Heliculture.
Heliculture, commonly known as escargot snail farming. So this is the raising and processing of snails, escargot, basically for human consumption and also for cosmetics industry. They also use some of the products for arts industry and that kind of thing. Petitioner is planning to use about 1,100 square feet of the basement level of the existing building at 340 Broadway. She has been working pretty extensively with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the Department of Agriculture, and this would be, as she puts in her application, one of the first snail farms or snail ranch in the Midwest. So, kind of new, kind of innovative. Going through a lot of processes to make that happen. Some of the requirements by these agencies are that the site has to be biologically secured. It has to be a completely controlled environment, which drew her to this site and the basement primarily because it's full concrete. There's no access. It is a former industrial property, although it has been kind of converting now to a mixed use. The site would have to be inspected by the FDA, the USDA, for federal permits, and also occupancy would have to be approved from the city or the state of Wisconsin. So how they redevelop that space would have to meet building codes. Petitioner plans to have just a single employee, but that would hopefully increase over time to anywhere up to 1 to 5. At that point, she may be expanding outside of her area. The business would be production and processing only. There'd be no retail or restaurant uses, no access from the public. However, she could use it for some educational purposes or tour groups. It is going to be a new feature. There is no need for any kind of loading or unloading or docking spaces. All deliveries are going to be done by personal vehicle or through overnight shipping. We kind of looked at this as staff, and it is definitely a light industrial limited production use, no different than any other. I mean, instead of cows, it's snails. It's a little bit smaller. So it's kind of uncommon in the States, but we are kind of encouraged that it is a new type of business in a redevelopment area that's being called the Innovation District or Innovation Area. So it's kind of appropriate, even though it's kind of strange. It's a very fitting addition for that development. Also, the former industrial building's basement is not very conducive to residential uses, commercial uses, but it's very conducive to industrial uses. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. That you can do the use and business gets some rent out of the property, and a small business gets its start. So with that, we did contact the alderman of the district, the neighbors within 200 feet, and the Broadway on Broadway Inc. We haven't received any objections. We are recommending approval of the conditional use permit request.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I have to admit a bias, a personal bias. I was raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, where snails in garlic butter on sourdough bread are one of the real delicacies in life, and I love it. I think this is a wonderful use of an aspect of the old building there that otherwise wouldn't get used. And certainly fits with having a brewery in the area as well, and you can have beer along with that sourdough bread.
Exactly, and the sourdough.
And they sell the sourdough at the cannery, right?
Yep, well, they're just starting a new bakeries moving in here.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yep, that's right,
sourdough.
they specialize in sourdough. Yeah. Well, this is just putting the pieces together as far as I'm concerned. So I just acknowledge that I have a bias, and if you all think that I ought to remove myself from consideration, I will do so, but I don't think it's a personal interest.
Thank you. Yes.
I doubt if there's anybody at this table that don't like garlic and butter. And now we add these little crustaceans with it, it's gotta be excellent. So I think it's an interesting, fit too. You said it was a great fit, and I think it's a great fit too.
Yeah, I agree with the staff's thoughts completely. This is exactly what we want for
Yes.
the Innovation District.
Use.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm wholeheartedly in favor of this. I think it's a perfect and creative use of an underutilized space.
Is that a motion?
Well, do we
I'll
need
make
to
that
open the
motion.
floor first, or?
Is there anybody that wishes to speak on this item? Okay, so we will need to open
I
the.
would move to open the floor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Petrowski, a second by Commissioner Hanson to open the floor for the public. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? If you would, please go up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, Jeffrey Knudsen, Company's Historic Restorations, 401 and 409 North Broadway. We have 5 parcels, kitty corner to the property. First of all, you're kidding yourselves that this is not pure agricultural. This is not light industrial. This is not commercial. This is agricultural. If you look at it, I Googled it when I got my notice. First thing they said was it stinks worse. It stinks as bad as chickens and pigs. Now, you know how a cow stinks. Now figure that. Now we are going in the wrong direction here. We've been going really good. This whole section of Broadway has moved fantastic in the right direction. Now we are turning in the opposite direction. It's going to stink a lot worse than Larson ever stunk. This is not meant to be downtown in the city. This is meant to be out in the country. There's plenty of locations, there's plenty of old silos you can find, there's plenty of old barns where you can use the basement of the barn, and you're out in the country where you're supposed to be. This does not belong downtown Green Bay. The people that live, that rent the building that she's going to be in, were not notified. You notified the landowners, but you never notified the people that are going to have to put up with this stink. We're going to have another vacant building when this is all done. This is agricultural. Where's she going to get her permits? Ag department. This is agricultural. Don't kid yourself. Any other questions? Have I made myself clear?
You have, thank you.
Thank you.
How do you really feel about it?
Okay.
I would like to defend myself
Sure.
here. Yeah, I've been doing research on heliculture for the past 4+ years, and sir, I think you got your information wrong.
Address the commission, please.
Pardon?
Address the commission.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I think he got his information someplace else, because snails have no smell, their waste has no smell whatsoever. The only thing that they're eating are things that we eat. They'll eat wheat, barley, lettuce, carrots, cucumbers, anything we eat, they eat. And it's dry, it has no smell whatsoever, and it's good for the land. I believe, I've talked with the owners of the rail yard district, and I guarantee them there will not be any smell whatsoever. I wouldn't go into something like that, into a business like this with a bakery, right, gonna be above me, and think that I could do something like that. Everything that I'll have will be composted. Nothing will leave that building. There would be no need to have any venting for smell, possibly with their venting and their HVAC system, with the fresh air coming in and going out like a normal heating system. They don't need a lot of temperature. They thrive between 68 and 72, and they need moisture. And we have designed a misting system which would be attached to each one of the pens to go off on a timer. And I just believe that he's misinformed about the smell. Yes, I'm working with the USDA, and I'm mainly working with the APHIS department of the agricultural department in the plant pest department. And the reason doing it in a concrete building is because this particular snail is an invasive to farmland, and that's where the PPQ
526 permit that I have applied for comes into effect, that I cannot receive them because they're not natural from here, they're not native to here, where they are in California and probably 20 other states as an invasive species. So this permit allows me to get them from another licensed farmer, snail farmer, and there's 2 in the United States, one in Seattle, and there's another in California that just opened, and he's doing it out of a greenhouse also. And the regulations are so strict that a person has to, I can't open unless they come in and inspect and they okay it. I mean, there's just nothing I can do to even open before I have their permission to grant me that permit. And I don't know, I don't have much of a reputation as a snail farmer, but I would definitely, all my research that I've done has proven that they have no smell. And if you don't clean anything, of course, but the cleanly, I didn't say that, the being clean and the, how do you clean it with the bleaches and sanitation and everything like that is so strict that I don't believe that that would be an issue. That would be the last thing I would think of for me to worry about, or anybody in that building to worry about. They don't consider it as that. That's never even came up in anything in the permitting because they're not. It's just it's kind of, I guess I did what I could say. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, Jerry?
This being the case, if there's no smell, they eat vegetables, but you said seeds first, then you changed to carrots and lettuce.
Oh, yeah. I can kind of show you a little bit here of
and
what...
we all know that those types of things, if they're not properly refrigerated, are definitely going to probably smell sometime. But what happens when the species actually eats this stuff? Where does the waste go?
Okay, I'll show you. This is not exactly how this is going to be done, but because we can't use wood, we have to use metal. Nothing that can corrode or get mold or anything. So I've taken this from a snail farm in Kerry, Ireland, and we've taken our design from this. There will be a bed. Here, this will be a grow bed, just like this here. The greens will be grown in here. The snails will be raised on here. Okay, that's where they'll hang out. And then these boards across the top is where the feed is. You can't leave the food. You feed them, they eat at night. They're a nocturnal species. So at the next day, whatever food's left over, it's taken away because you don't need to, you don't want to feed them old, they don't eat old food, or you give them just enough till it's gone. You know, that would be the time, you'd have to learn that part of it.
So this food is actually fresh at all times? When
I intend to grow it.
When they digest it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the cleaning parts will be these are the curtains that they can go down there and eat the foliage that I grow inside there. But there'll also be an area where I can grow lettuce and some cucumber and whatever I need to. And I have a garden at home, so I would grow whatever, like carrots. They love carrots and foods like that, nutritious stuff, and forage stuff like burdock, wild mustard and stuff like that.
Where do you get these snails from?
There's a gentleman in Seattle that he has just gotten his license to be the second licensed one in snail farmer in the United States, and he's from Seattle.
Okay. Why are all these, for lack of anything else, why are all these different divisions involved in assessing what you're doing and giving the okay for it? Is it just so it's properly done? Is that
so it's properly done because they are an invasive species, and they have a way of, if they're not happy, they'll kind of just curl up into their shell and they'll form a coating over the top and they look dead. So like somebody would see that, oh, I have a dead snail, flip it out, and then it rains, he would wake up and they're hermaphrodites, so they don't need to have a mate to mate. They lay eggs underground, so nobody would see them.
So it could be a real mess.
It could be, that's how
Holy
they become invasive. So we would be using metal and a different type of plastic here that can be washed and chemically washed, and all the dirt and everything that I would be using from this will be composted with worms, and all the leftover feed would also go into a compost, so I can just generate good dirt to replant my plants.
And what would you do with the waste if it does occur?
That will go into the what kind of waste?
Well,
Talking
say something dies for some reason.
Oh, okay, then I would also, because of the red wigglers that I'd be raising, I would bury like a snail would just die because it died. Just bury that in the ground. Snails will, worms will eat that. They'll eat anything that was alive at one time. They won't eat live things, but anything that was alive, and that would be composted into that. I could crush the shells for calcium in excess, and possibly, because snails need excess calcium supplements, I don't know for sure if they would eat their own shells if it was powdered, but it is all it is calcium.
Ma'am,
So,
you need to address the whole council, or the whole commission.
oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay, I'm just talking.
Okay.
No.
You don't have to repeat.
I want to pass
So,
this stuff
yeah,
down too.
But this is just a kind of what you get an idea.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I do
Excuse me.
have, go ahead. I'm sorry, none for her. I do have a
Oh, okay,
question for Paul.
thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Motion to close the floor?
Oh, yes, that's right.
Second.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? No? You've already spoken, sir.
I can't speak again.
Okay, and if you are looking to close it?
Motion second?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alder Corpus Dax and a second by Commissioner Hanson to close the floor. Any further discussion on that? No, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great.
So my question then is to Paul. Mr. Knudsen has raised the issue about agricultural use. Is that covered in the PUD?
I don't know if
That was convincing, and as Ms. McDonald was talking, she was talking about it as a farm. It is farming. And we do have precedent for that in the city, in the farmery, which is in a residential area and is also indoor farming. I'm wondering, I'm asking a legal question now, really. Are we in legal jeopardy if we approve something that is farming?
I think it's a non-traditional use, but I think it's still, as we classify it as more light industrial or light manufacturing, I don't know that it's a pure agricultural use in the sense that it's a farm field or something like that. I think there's some latitude in the PUD that those uses can be adjusted, certainly. There's flexibility in the PUD, but I don't know, David, if you have anything to add.
Well, we didn't have, so in the PUD, it allows limited production and processing and light industrial type of uses. It does not allow agricultural uses. But when we look at this type of use, it goes, you're raising the food source, I guess, right? But then you're processing it all the way through to the end,
right,
and shipping. The alternative would potentially be they're raised off-site and shipped in, then processed and then shipped out, but it's such a small component of the production facility, it was felt to fall into that PUD as a limited production and processing.
Okay, another question would be, is it appropriate to amend the PUD?
I guess.
I think from staff's perspective is, we don't see a conflict with that.
We don't see a conflict. I mean,
this is a use that's out of sight, out of mind for most parts. There's not a direct impact unless there's some sort of smells, but I think it's certainly regulated by the federal government.
The other thing you could do is if there are smells or smell complaints, you could request the CUPD That'd be a condition of approval, that no odors leave the facility. The other thing to keep in mind, this is 1,100 square feet. This is about, you know, this is a 1950s ranch style house.
Yes.
So it's not a large, like, meat packing plant or anything. It's a pretty small facility.
I would, so your sense is that we don't have a legal problem here because we do have precedent elsewhere in the city of having the indoor farming, and because it is processing, as you explained it, David.
Sure, and greenhouses are permitted in
Okay.
the city, in many commercial districts.
Okay. Then the other issue, and frankly the more important one, I think, is the issue of odor. And I would certainly adopt the approach that you took, David, that if there were complaints about odor, that the CUP would not, that would cancel the CUP. Another way to put it, though, that might be cleaner would be to ask for some certification from the FDA or department. Let's see, what was it? FDA and
FDA and USDA.
Right, USDA. Thank you. I knew there was another A in there somewhere. A certification of the resources that you've been using, but backed up by that official body, that this is not, would not be a problem. It sounds like it would be very easy for you to get that certification, but I think it speaks to the concern that Mr. Anderson raised.
Sure, and that could be an option, is making a condition that she provide that documentation. The other thing, the way a conditional use permit would be revoked just doesn't disappear. So if there were odor complaints, it would come back to the plan commission and council for review, and they could revoke the conditional use permit based on it not meeting one of its criteria.
Okay.
At that point, you could do heavier research. I mean, you could have somebody 5 blocks away saying, "Oh, I smell something, it's the snails." You know, that would have to be documented, it would have to come back through the bodies to make a determination if that is realistic or not. I mean, yeah.
Thank you.
So if you just, if the odor is a major concern and you still want to recommend approval, you could just add the condition, you know, no odor will be leaving the site. No odor associated with snails or whatever.
Do you want to include the certification from
I would like
USDA?
to.
Yeah.
Either the USDA or the
Well, the FDA, or mainly I'm working with APHIS, which is the Plant Pest Department.
So.
But that is the USDA.
Yeah.
Or the appropriate
Good.
federal
Yes.
body, I guess.
Excellent,
Yeah.
thank you,
There we
Paul,
go.
that's the language I was after. Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
Then I would make the motion to approve this, subject to, subject to certification by the appropriate federal agency, that the processing of the snails does not involve odor. And with the understanding that a determination that odor is a problem would revoke the CUP. Good.
Second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Brimmer. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Alder Corpus Dax. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the chair would ask that you cast your vote.
I don't have anything from Jake, Jerry, or Tim.
I did not get a prompt.
Great. Would you
I
like
didn't
to voice
either.
vote for me, please?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Aye, yes.
Jerry?
I didn't get a prompt either.
Voice vote.
Yes.
Unanimously approved.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, this will come before city council next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Next Tuesday.
Okay, next item. Item 4, consideration with possible action on the request to repeal zoning ordinance 7-00 for 840 South Huron Road and to rezone the subject parcel from rural residential to highway commercial, submitted by Jeff Osgood, Quick Trip property owner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is another two-part request. It involves a repeal of a previously approved zoning ordinance and then a rezoning request. So the property is located at 840 South Huron Road. It's at the northwest corner of Mason and Huron. It's a former Shell station. Quick Trip acquired the property in 2014, and they have plans to remodel or reconstruct the site. This is just north of the I-43 Business Center, which runs, well, pretty much on the south side of East Mason Street. Future land use comp plan shows commercial. This is a commercial corridor. And this is the current zoning. So actually it has an underlying zoning of rural residential, but there is a PUD boundary around that property that was developed about 2000. So that was developed for the Shell station. It's very specific to the Shell station's dimensions, the building size, the placement, the heights, and setbacks. Quick Trip's reconstruction plans don't fit that mold for the PUD. So our recommendation was to repeal that ordinance, 0700, and then to rezone the subject property from rural residential to highway commercial, or C2, which should allow them the free rein to reconstruct the gas station as necessary. We didn't receive any calls or questions on this, and we're recommending approval of both requests tonight.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Can I just make a motion?
Sure.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Henson, a second by Alderperka Stacks to approve the recommendation. Is there any further discussion?
Just to comment, it feels like it's not a plan commission meeting if there's not a Quick Trip thing on the agenda.
And a panel stop, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, two.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, in that case, the chair would ask that you cast your vote. I'm not going to count.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Unanimously approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Invite Snail Farming to all meetings.
Thanks for your patience. Okay, next item, item 5. Consideration with possible action on the request to rezone 1820 Frank Street from low density residential to office residential, submitted by Michael J. Coppins, property owner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is another rezoning request. This one's for 1820 Frank Street. This is on the west side of town, just north of Lambeau Field, Lombardi Avenue and Ridge Road, northeast corner. If you recall, back in 2015, we did a comprehensive plan amendment for this particular area. It included the entire corner, including 1820 Frank Street. We also did a rezoning at that time for a planned unit development for a major office building that was going to be constructed. It excluded this parcel here because this property was not part of that development proposal. That zoning went away, that development never occurred. So that property retained its office residential zoning. So the comp plan recommends that high-intensity retail officer housing, including 1820 Frank Street. The balance of the property still has an office residential zoning. Now the property owner would like to consider a development on that site. So being low-density residential, there's not much he can do. A rezoning change to office residential might allow some mixed use or some other higher intensity use. So we notified affected property owners. We didn't get any calls on this one. We were recommending approval of the request from R1 to OR.
Thank you.
So do we know anything about what has happened to the Venezia Plaza proposals?
We continue to talk to the property owner, and there may be some development potential. We just haven't received anything officially at this point. So it's still under consideration for development.
And this would be standalone with no reference to that?
It may be standalone, there may be some partnerships, that's still up in the air as well. This is the first step in the process for that property owner to at least obtain that zoning so he has some flexibility to at least propose something.
And as I recall, he was not willing to sell to
Mr. Keene,
Mr.
yes.
Keene,
Correct.
at the time, so he was a holdout.
He was, yes. And that's why he was excluded from any sort of zoning
Yes.
change.
Okay, thank you.
No longer a holdup.
I would move to approve the request.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Petrowski, a second by Commissioner Wasbiski to approve the recommendation. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the chair would ask that you cast your vote.
Yes for Jerry.
And yes.
Unanimously approved.
Okay. Thank you. Last item, item 6.
I kind of forgot I had one on here.
There's a reason I was here.
Go, Stephanie.
Item 6, consideration with possible action on the request to declare city-owned property as surplus located along the 1300 block of South Huron Road, submitted by Paul Kozmowski.
Thank you. So this is on the far east side of town. This is Village of Bellevue, South Huron Road here. I-43 Business Park back in this area. So this is the parcel that's in question here that's outlined in a little different shade of blue. Probably could have done that differently. This is all city owned. At one point it was right away, it was vacated and parceled off. There are quite a few utility providers in here. WPS has some facilities and an easement. More importantly, ATC has some pretty large facilities here with an agreement and an easement that's 100 feet wide with the city. So for other providers, other city functions, we don't need this parcel anymore. It's valued at about $92,000, but it's not necessary for city functions or anything that we would use it for going forward. So with that, we are recommending approval of the request to, to declare the surplus with the retention of those utility providers. So ATC has already been in contact with Kozmowski about that. If he does pick up that parcel, what that's going to look like for him as far as maintaining that facility area, and then keeping that utility easement that WPS has requested. We are also adding a condition that he get the first crack at it. It is up for surplus, but there are other adjacent parcels, so we want to have this at market value. He gets the first bat at that. If that doesn't go through, then we can put it out to anybody else who's adjacent or wants to pick up that facility area.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, what I'm understanding is that this is for a multifamily development.
Yes. A multifamily has been theoretically proposed in this area here.
Okay.
No
And
site
it
plan
would
is.
allow him to expand that development in some way? How many feet wide is that little strip?
Not much, maybe 50 feet under.
Yeah.
It's not very much land.
Yeah.
It does help with their site plan though. There are a lot of wetlands in this area, so they're being very creative with the placement of these
Excellent.
buildings. So I think kind of like any little bit helps with that.
That's
And
what
we
I
aren't
needed to
going
know.
to be using it, so I think that they're just trying to see what they can maneuver with the ETC lines. There's
Yeah.
only so much you can put below, it's usually just parking surface.
Mhm.
So it would extend too far north, but these users are all industrial or commercial in nature, so it won't really be impeding on that either way.
Thank you.
Same width as Double Lane Highway.
Thank you, Jerry, that helps. I always have trouble
It
with
could also be just used as setback area as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
don't really-
They really just need a little bit more access up here, but that's take the whole thing if we're gonna give it to them, so.
I would move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Petrowski, a second by Commissioner Bremer to approve the recommendation. Other question? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the chair would ask that you cast your vote.
Hold on.
I guess I could have jumped in there. I don't compliment.
This time mine's not.
Yeah, I have no, oh, there it is.
I would really mess up. All the stuff you did would be gone.
Just not too bad.
And I vote.
Unanimously approved.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good job of being two places, Stephanie.
Okay, next, do we have a director's report?
We do not.
Okay, and we will
Director is gone.
left the building. Okay. The next item then is the date of the next meeting. It is Monday, November 25th, 2019.
Before Thanksgiving, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
before.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hanson, a second by Commissioner Brimmer to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to wish you all a good Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll see you next year.
You're gonna
We
disappear
need you
on
on the